silence in your living room feels heavier these days. You sit with your morning coffee, thinking about last week's family gathering, and that familiar ache settles in your chest. You gave so much of yourself, shared your wisdom, offered your heart, yet somehow, the understanding you long for remains just out of reach. Here's the truth that took me decades to learn. The peace you're searching for won't come from them finally getting it. It comes from a much deeper place within yourself. Today, I want to share 6 profound truths about family life that can transform everything for you after 70. These aren't easy truths, but they're liberating ones, the kind that can lift burdens from your shoulders that you've been carrying for far too long. Let me begin with something that might shift how you see every family interaction from this moment forward. The first truth that changed everything for me was learning that you cannot control their choices or understanding, only your reactions. This might sound simple, but the weight of truly accepting this can be life-changing. Think about the last time you felt frustrated with a family member. Maybe your adult child made a decision that seemed foolish to you. Perhaps your grandchild didn't appreciate something you did for them. Or maybe your sibling still doesn't understand why certain family memories affect you the way they do. In those moments, you probably felt that familiar surge of wanting to fix things, to make them see clearly, to help them understand. Here's what I've learned from countless conversations with people who've walked this path. The energy you spend trying to control what others think, feel, or do is energy stolen from your own peace. It's like trying to change the weather by standing outside and shouting at the clouds. You can exhaust yourself completely, but the weather will do what it does regardless. I once knew someone who spent years trying to convince their family that a particular family tradition was important. Every holiday became a battle. Every gathering turned into a lecture about values and history. The harder they pushed, the more their family pulled away. It wasn't until they stopped trying to force understanding and simply chose to honor the tradition themselves, quietly, peacefully, that something beautiful happened. Their family began to notice. Some even started asking questions, not because they felt pressured, but because they saw someone living their values with grace. When you release the need to control how others respond to you, something magical happens. You stop bracing for disappointment. You stop keeping score of who appreciates what. You start showing up as yourself, offering what you can offer, and letting go of the outcome. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care in a way that doesn't drain your spirit. The next time you feel that familiar frustration building, pause and ask yourself this simple question. Is this something I can actually control? If the answer is no, and it usually is when it comes to other people's thoughts and feelings, then gently redirect that energy towards something you can control. Your response, your attitude, how you choose to spend your time, your own emotional well-being. This leads us to the second truth that can transform your family relationships. Their understanding is shaped by their own unique lens, not yours. Your life has been a specific journey. You've walked through decades that younger family members never experienced. You've seen how certain patterns play out over time. You've learned lessons through hard-won experience. But here's the thing. They're looking at the world through completely different eyes. Your adult children grew up in a different era. They faced different challenges. They learned different ways of coping. Your grandchildren are navigating a world that would be barely recognizable to you at their age. When they don't understand your perspective, it's not because they're rejecting your wisdom. It's because they're seeing everything through the filter of their own experiences. I remember speaking with someone whose family couldn't understand why they were so careful with money. This person had lived through times when every penny mattered, when financial security couldn't be taken for granted. But their children had grown up in relative abundance. They hadn't experienced that deep fear of not having enough. To them, their parents' careful spending seemed excessive, even anxious. To the parent, the children's casual attitude toward money seemed reckless. Neither perspective was wrong, They were just shaped by completely different life experiences. When you can step back and see that their lack of understanding isn't personal, something shifts. You stop taking their different viewpoint as a rejection of you. You start seeing it as simply, or different. And sometimes, if you're really listening, you might even learn something from their perspective. This doesn't mean your wisdom isn't valuable. It absolutely is. But wisdom shared with an open heart, without the expectation of immediate understanding, has a much better chance of eventually taking root. The third truth might be the hardest one to accept. Your perfect family might not be their perfect family. You might have a vision of how family gatherings should go. Maybe you picture everyone sitting around the table, sharing stories, laughing together, expressing gratitude for family bonds. Maybe you imagine regular phone calls, thoughtful gestures, or certain traditions being honored year after year. These aren't wrong desires. They come from a beautiful place in your heart. But when you hold on to them too tightly, they can become sources of constant disappointment. The truth is, your family members might have completely different ideas about what makes a family gathering meaningful. Your adult child might feel more connected to you during a quiet walk than during a big family dinner. Your grandchild might show love through sharing their interests with you rather than through traditional expressions of appreciation. I've seen so many people torture themselves because their family doesn't match their picture of what family should be. They miss the actual love and connection that's happening right in front of them because it doesn't look the way they expected it to look. Think about someone who plants a garden expecting only roses, then becomes frustrated when wildflowers start growing. They might spend all their time trying to pull up the wildflowers, missing the fact that they've created something unexpectedly beautiful. For your next family interaction, try this. Instead of focusing on how you want it to go, focus on simply being present with what actually unfolds. Notice the small moments of connection that you might usually overlook. Your grandson might not express appreciation the way you expect, but maybe he lights up when he talks to you about something he's passionate about. Your daughter might not call as often as you'd like, but maybe when she does call, she trusts you with things she doesn't share with anyone else. If these truths are stirring something in your heart, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to comment wisdom below to let me know you're here with me. And if these insights are helping you see your family relationships in a new light, please consider subscribing. There's so much more wisdom to explore together about living these later chapters with grace and peace. Now let me share the fourth truth, and this one might be the most empowering. Negative family patterns can be broken, but it starts with your boundaries. You might have family members who drain your energy. Maybe there's someone who always finds something to criticize about your choices. Perhaps there's a relative who turns every conversation into drama. Or maybe there's someone who takes and takes, but never gives anything back. For years, you might have told yourself that you have to tolerate this because they're family. You might have believed that setting boundaries means you don't love them enough. But here's what I've learned. Protecting your emotional well-being isn't selfish. It's necessary. Think about someone who keeps a door open during a winter storm because they want to be welcoming. Eventually, the cold wind fills the entire house, making it impossible for anyone to be comfortable. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for others is to close the door. I knew someone whose sibling had a pattern of calling only when they needed something: money, babysitting, emotional support during their latest crisis. But they were never available when support was needed in return. Every conversation left this person feeling drained and used. For years, they answered every call, thinking this was what family loyalty meant. Finally, they realized that always being available for this pattern wasn't helping anyone. It enabled their sibling to avoid taking responsibility, and it was slowly eroding their own emotional health. So they set a boundary. They stopped answering every call immediately. They started saying no to requests that felt one-sided. At first, their sibling was angry, but eventually, something shifted. Their siblings started taking more responsibility for their own problems and began showing more appreciation for the support they did receive. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you stop loving someone. It means you love them in a way that's sustainable for you. It means you create space for healthier interactions to grow. Look at your family relationships honestly. Is there someone whose behavior consistently leaves you feeling drained, criticized, or taken advantage of? You don't have to cut them out completely, but you can decide how much energy you're willing to invest. You can choose when and how to engage. You can say no to requests that don't feel right to you. Remember, you're not responsible for managing other people's emotions about your boundaries. You're only responsible for maintaining them with kindness and consistency. This brings us to the fifth truth, one that can free you from years of accumulated pain. Forgiveness is for your peace, not their absolution. You might be carrying resentment about things that happened years ago. Maybe someone said something hurtful during a difficult time. Perhaps someone wasn't there for you when you needed them most. Maybe someone made choices that affected the whole family in painful ways. Holding on to these resentments is like carrying a heavy bag everywhere you go. It weighs you down. It affects how you move through the world. It colors how you see new situations. And the person you're resenting, they might not even realize you're carrying this weight. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending that hurtful things didn't happen. It doesn't mean you have to forget or excuse harmful behavior. It definitely doesn't mean you have to return to the same level of closeness with someone who hurt you. Forgiveness means you choose to put down that heavy bag. You choose to stop letting past pain control your present peace. I once spoke with someone who had been carrying anger toward their adult child for more than a decade. The child had made some choices during their 20s that caused real pain and disruption for the family. Even though the child had since grown, changed, and tried to make amends, this parent couldn't let go of the hurt. The parent thought they were protecting themselves by holding on to this anger. But what they were actually doing was keeping themselves trapped in a painful past. They were missing the opportunity to enjoy the relationship with the person their child had become. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you. It's about choosing your peace over your pain. It's about deciding that you won't let past hurt continue to steal your present joy. If you're carrying resentment toward a family member, try this gentle process. First, acknowledge the hurt fully. Don't minimize it or pretend it didn't matter. Then, consider what continuing to carry this pain is costing you. Is it affecting your sleep, your ability to enjoy family gatherings, your capacity to be present with other loved ones? Finally, imagine what your life might feel like if you could put this burden down, not for their sake, but for yours. Forgiveness is often a process, not a moment. Be patient with yourself as you work toward letting go. The final truth might be the most freeing of all. Family relationships, like life itself, are constantly changing. The family dynamics you knew 20 years ago aren't the same ones that exist today. Your children have grown into full adults with their own complex lives. Your grandchildren are developing their own personalities and interests. Even your relationship with your spouse or siblings has evolved over the decades. Sometimes we fight against these changes because we're afraid of losing something precious. The little girl who used to beg to spend weekends with you is now a teenager, more interested in her friends. The son who used to call every Sunday now gets busy with his own family responsibilities. The family traditions that once felt sacred might feel forced or outdated to younger generations. It's natural to feel some sadness about these changes. There's grief in watching certain phases of family life come to an end, but there's also beauty in allowing relationships to evolve naturally. Think about a river. If you try to dam it up to keep it exactly as it is in one spot, you don't preserve its beauty. You stop its natural flow. Family relationships are like that river. Their beauty often lies in how they adapt and change over time. Your relationship with your adult children might be different from when they were young, but it can be deeper in new ways. Your grandchildren might not need you in the same way they once did, but they might start seeing you as a source of wisdom and perspective they can't get anywhere else. Instead of mourning what's changing, try to stay curious about what's emerging, what new ways might love and connection show up, what unexpected joys might develop as relationships evolve. The key is to hold your family relationships lightly. Love deeply, but don't grip so tightly that you prevent natural growth and change. As we come to the end of our time together today, I want you to know that these truths aren't about giving up on your family or lowering your expectations of love. They're about loving in a way that brings you peace instead of pain. They're about finding freedom in acceptance and wisdom in letting go. You cannot control their understanding, but you can control your reactions. Their perspective is shaped by their own experiences, not yours. Your vision of the perfect family might not match theirs, and that's okay. You have the power to break negative patterns by setting healthy boundaries. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, not them. And change, even in family relationships, can lead to unexpected beauty. Which of these truths speaks most deeply to your heart right now? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Your wisdom and experience matter, and sharing them might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this conversation has been helpful, please give this video a like and consider subscribing. There's so much more to explore together about living these precious later years with grace, wisdom, and deep inner peace. Until next time, remember, the understanding you seek begins with understanding yourself, and the peace you long for is already within your reach.